Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time of the month. Time for every man, woman, and child across the earth and the internet to go into menopause. That was our period here. PMS, because it's the time of the month where everything I say can only be wrong, evil, and mean I'm a white supremacist or something like that, or a sexist or something, because, it's the political commentary of the month. And as usual, it's recorded on the last day of the month. I say as usual because it's becoming a routine that I pretty much wait till the last second. This time, however, I did it because of the fact that I hit a rough patch within the last couple and a half weeks. And I just need to take a break from pretty much everything. Pull back a ways because I was really, I know a big part of it, not all of it, but a big part of it was I was observing and watching the Freedom Convoy 2022, that is the original Canadian one, up in Canada, and yes, it was a beautiful, fun thing, but it was also emotionally overwhelming for countless different reasons. I actually listed in my last video, which was, I believe, actually the political commentary of the month for last month. So, hey, how you doing? Full circle, I guess. But anyway, so I was observing that the whole way through. And, of course, after that, about 2 weeks ago, they officially brought in the use of the Emergencies Act, which is technically the War Measures Act, which is actually a World War II era thing that literally had never been invoked, thus utilized in the entire nation's history, because it's pretty much impossible to check all the boxes you need to in order to even legally, as the Prime Minister, enact it or invoke it. But they did it anyway, because who the fuck gives a shit about anyone, of course. And that, of course, and the heavy militarized police force that literally use excessive use of force, of course, predictably, against very peaceful protesters. It eventually got to me. It was like, fucking hell, man. It's that damn fucking tone again. Anyway, because it's super frustrating, because, like, everything that all the crazy conspiracy theorists have been saying for a decade or more has, every single day pretty much, more and more comes out to prove that they were right. Including my crazy conspiracy theorist self for now. Like, 9/11 was an inside job. It was by the United States government. Yes, it was. It absolutely fucking was. There was no planes, an example. That's a total fucking fallacy they planted in everybody's minds because they were an emotional fucking wreck. Of course you convinced them that they saw planes when nobody fucking saw a single plane because the planes were not there. They did not exist during 9/11. Or how about, for that matter, that leading, of course, to the, the Patriot Act. That being used as an excuse to officially publicly announce that they were going to start doing the stuff that they already were doing before it to their citizens and the rest of the world, which was collecting all of our personal data and every possible thing they could have. I mean, this literally is automatic biometric being put in a fucking data center somewhere. It's all a bunch of fucking bullshit. But that was their excuse, and just countless other stuff, and how like all this stuff is just one giant web, and how it's all tied back into the same fucking hub, like a hub and spoke, right? An old wagon wheel, except in this case it's an intricate ornate web, except you can still see every strand and how it goes right back to the center again. It's a bunch of fucking bullshit. The entire world is a game, and the entire game is rigged against everybody but the few people that made the game in the first place and who run the game in the first place. And it's becoming more and more clear every freaking day. Like, there's a bunch of Senate bills that are silently, without announcing to the public, that they're about to try to rush and press past up in Canada that would give them more autocracy, autocratic rule over the people there. Because they already are doing that with the Emergencies Act, and they're trying to come up with every excuse they can why they have to make the Emergencies Act now a permanent thing, which is, again, makes Trudeau or any other prime minister an autocrat. You have that, and now they want to add even more to it, of course, because they say, well, it's still not enough. Bullshit. You know what it is, especially if you paid a lick of attention to the convoy from the people on the ground from day one through the last day when they cleared out Ottawa by force, the reality of the situation is the opposite of what the mainstream media has said, the opposite of what Trudeau and the government of Canada has said, the opposite of what the Ontarian government, provincial government has said, the opposite of what the city, so the municipal government of Ottawa has claimed and said. It's been as blatantly obvious as it could possibly be. And it also, again, easily and directly goes to prove and show the obvious fact that this whole fucking thing, this whole fucking game that they have rigged against all of us around the world, that is running the world, this game, one of its fucking integral pieces is, of course, divide and conquer. And one of the best ways and easiest ways they can do that is by making us divide and conquer for them. And they do that with politics, social concepts, and other shit like that. One of those big socio-political concepts is race. They love to fucking play the race card as aggressively as possible. They're inserting every possible fucking narrative that is supposedly this pitting supposed white supremacist right-wing Republican types versus the supposed progressive liberalistic anti-racist. And it's like all this other bullshit intricacies of the details of the fucking game that they play, and make us play to divide ourselves more. The race game is not legit, and they know it's not legitimate. They're using it as a way to further have us divide ourselves and hate each other and cause more disputes so that they can use that as say, see, we need to gain more control. Give us more of your rights. That's what this whole fucking thing is. It's a fucking giant rigged ass game that they created. The whole case of, again, invent a problem, invent the solution, and then propose that solution. It's all the same fucking people who are doing all of the above. They're creating inventing and creating, and then giving everyone the problems so that they can then be the ones to be looked at as the solution givers, the ones who invented and created the solutions, and then implemented them. And it self-perpetuates. It's a self-fulfilling cycle. It's all a fucking rig. It's the most interesting and kind of semi-comedic in a very painful, depressing way to watch all these different truly independent and or investigative journalists go out here, along with a bunch of other people, go out here and actually dig and dig and dig and dig and go off of the basis that they know that the governments of the world, the WEF and everything, are going to be burying and suppressing and redacting and even all out getting rid of every possible trace of reality as possible to different situations and all the different connections. They're at least going to do what they can to blackball it, suppress it, and bury it somewhere so it's the hardest, most time-consuming, stressful thing to locate. That's what they've been doing. And these people have been saying, well, let's go with that in mind and let's keep fucking digging until we find the shit they don't want us to find. And suddenly, there's endless connections to the WEF and Klaus Schwab. There's endless connections and correlatives in this fucking web of the game that they have the world set up to be as for themselves. Also, not only with that, but of course with all the big technocratic and oil mogul elitist corporations and, well, let's not even call them elitists, just rich bastards who think they're so great and try to control all of us in the entire world. All those fuckers that we call elites. That's literally all these magnates. That's exactly what it ties into too. It also ties into wars. Right now, because of the Ukraine thing, people are realizing, okay, this is obviously a distraction piece. A lot of these people are finding it is. They're figuring that actually Ukraine knew that this was going to happen, and they're part of the fucking plan. It probably ties back and also, in fact, yes, into the WEF, therefore technically kind of a New World Order-esque, if not literally the New World Order plan. And that's just a part of their fucking step-by-step cycle and advancement of their agenda to get to where they are trying to get to. And there's more and more shit coming out that's kind of proving that. Including, the whole... If you listen to Klaus Schwab and all the clips that have now been found and came out, where you can watch it unedited, the exact things he talks about, including penetrating the cabinets of these young WEF leaders, there's an obscene amount of correlatives and connections that are too obvious, that are not coincidence. You know it's intended. And somewhere at the top of the whole fucking web of lies, the rigged game, is fucking Klaus and his WEF shit. So they penetrate the cabinets. So you take that as an example. What you do is you listen to that, you look at it, okay, so they do that. That basically is another term or a synonym for infiltration or whatever else, okay. So you take control, you seize control over majorities of these cabinets of these nations. Great, okay, cool. So now they're leading your agenda. Now let's see the correlative. Oh, you have numbers applied to the heads of each of these young world leaders. Like Trudeau, the president of Argentina, etc. The people he keeps mentioning. Emmanuel Macron of France. You have all this stuff. You take that shit. Look at the different, like the cattle tag, right? Cattle tag numbers, except instead it's over their head or worn like a badge of honor as a necklace or something. A dog tag. You have, they literally each have a number, and this is the point that people keep making is, so what they're trying to say is that world leaders, young world WEF leaders of these different nations, numbers, what was it, 2, 3, 4, and 6 are mad at WEF leader like 13 or something like that for the invasion of Ukraine. In other words, Vladimir Putin is also considered to be one of those young WEF world leaders. And he's whatever number he is. And so in other words, all these other young leaders of the WEF of these different nations are mad at the one of their cohorts, their counterparts, right? Which already is like, yeah, no, this is a fucking bullshit distraction is what this is. So I guarantee to you, though, as far as it seems, Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine is not actually a part of the WEF, at least not in any major position. I don't know if he has an association with it. So don't, take that with a grain of salt. I'm not saying he isn't, but as far as I know, we haven't found any correlations or connections between him and them. But either way, I guarantee that this is something he was briefed on, and they're saying, hey, this is a part of our agenda, and we're not going to not have it happen, so you're going to have to at least act it up as if you're desperately trying to defend your nation, and that this is a horrible thing, and that, pleading with the world about it, whereas in reality, you're just really going to just lay down and let us take it, Put up a fight, but it's really for show and distraction, and then we'll just take it over. I guarantee that's what this is. And more evidence, more and more pieces of proof seem to come out to correlate that to all of this shit right back to square one again, including how all the different main world leaders that are part of the WEF their commentaries are almost, in fact, I guarantee they are scripted. They're just typical PR shit that they've had on a script in front of them forever. And so even somebody as incompetent cognitively and speech-wise as Joe Biden is able to just parrot these things without even looking at a teleprompter, because his entire career has been surrounded with that script. That's part of your training as a puppet. And so it's just like, well, this is fun, everybody's pretty much, they're saying somewhat different things, but it's exactly the same thing, just different words, basically. And so, but they're all saying the same shit. And it's like, yeah, that's really convenient, isn't it? Well, you don't actually do anything except conveniently do the thing that never changes anything and slap these large, massive, bulging sanctions full of juice, vim, and vigor of life. I don't know why I'm trying to go a 12-year-old route and but listen, the point is, it's very virulently, massively, bulging, throbbingly, loaded with, such strong arm, punishment of stick your nose in the corner, slap on the wrist, that'll teach you, shit. It's just it never does anything because it's not intended to, for fuck's sake. It doesn't do anything because it's not supposed to do anything. Again, I can guarantee you that's an easy thing to prove too. And that's why it doesn't actually do anything. It's also for show. It doesn't actually do much of anything. The only people that usually hurt from it is never actually the government or their companies. In reality, it's the small businesses, the mom and pops, as in the everyday people who are getting fucked over. All of us. Not them. We do. Which is why they're more than happy to do that, because they know they're self-protected and self-interested, so they're never going to hurt themselves or each other, but they'll hurt their own people. And then they use these fancy terms like GDP, per capita, and all these other stupid metrics as this extra piece of distraction and indoctrination to our minds of saying, see, look, our nations are hurting, our economies are collapsing. Well, no, they're not. That's why you probably should have separated between corporate economies or controlling interest economies and or power economies and civilian economies, because they really are two completely different universes, not just different worlds, not just different economies. They're different beasts. They're entirely different universes. They're entirely different forms of existence. They function entirely differently. They're intended to function entirely differently. They're built entirely differently. And they have completely different things that they rely upon. So there should absolutely be a severance between those two, and a separation, and never a conflation of them. Like, they are very separate, very different things that also require very different things. And the system's rigged in such a way that it's always going to hurt us, never them. And that's why they're more than thrilled to do it, because it still also creates, with their successful indoctrination, the mass majority of, well, the masses, the citizenry, the people of the world, the serfs, we the serfs, you know? Like, I can just about guarantee you that it's a guarantee that this is how it really works. And again, with like so many other people starting to come out and find out what they research and they're digging around, like they get just determined enough and they're fed up enough that they're just digging as deep as anybody never would want to. And they're finding all this shit. And it's like, okay, you know? Like, I guarantee to you this is the reality of the world and how it really functions. It's all just one giant fucking fucked up game and puppet show rigged against we the people of the world, the common people, the serfs, the servants, the whatever the heck you want to call us. You know, they want to call us whatever, how they consider us in reality, versus their monoton slaves, versus, you know, them. And admittedly, you know, we probably should be a lot more careful with our language too, and what words we voluntarily utilize, because you know, like, honestly, if you really look at it and you really think about it, a lot of the words we use, you could tell, are probably actually indoctrinated and scripted into us. But it's their words, or it's the ones of their creation. And so it's like, okay, so then what is the objective and what is the agenda behind those words? Like it is, it's to self-perpetuate their agenda and get their way continuously for furthermore, so that we're always, whether we realize it or not, self-indoctrinating and indoctrinating each other, especially our younger generations. And so, like, saying elite, what really does that mean? Well, it traditionally is going to have a very positive connotation if you have it from that perspective of saying that, in other words, you're at the very tip top. You are better than everybody else, and whether statistically, whatever else. So, like, if somebody's elite in their job position, it's because of the fact that there's pretty much no competition between them and anybody else in their job position, because they're that fucking good. They're so fucking good that even in the world, it would be extensively difficult to find somebody who could do equally as good and consistent of a job as that person. That's traditionally what elite means. And so in their case, yes, they are elite then, I guess, at puppeteering, controlling the fucking world, and indoctrinating people, sure. Making us make them tons of money, while they make us then pay that money that they barely pay us any of to work for them to make them more money. And they make us then pay them it all back anyway, so it's not like they're actually really paying us anything, because likely it is, again, they have a monopoly on whatever it is that we would need, or at least we think we need, to survive and live. And so we're still spending money on that shit, which means we're just returning exactly what they pay us per a month, per an hour, right back to them and into their corporations, in their pockets. So in reality, they're not paying us shit. You know? And so yeah, they are elite at that regard. Absolutely, that's without a question. But elite in terms of, like, the way we look at them in a global sense, That's giving them way too much credit. And that's actually, I guarantee, therefore, why they like to be considered elites and why they have us calling them elites, because it it does create, whether you're subconsciously, consciously, you have to realize we're seeing a hierarchy there. And that's what they want. They want it especially to be subconscious, because then we aren't consciously realizing we're reinforcing within ourselves the notion that we are lower than them because there is this hierarchy here and it belongs. This is the way it's always been, so it should stay that way. That's a dangerous fucking thing, but it's very predictable that that's what they do. And so, like, you shouldn't technically call them elites. That's why you can call them rich bastards, or, the rich fuckers who control the entire world or rig the game against all of us. It's like, that would be more accurate and more honest. And it wouldn't give them the credit that they want, that they do not deserve. That's an aspect that we have to consider as well. Now, the next bit, for an example, again, is something like, again, how a lot of people right now are swapping from saying mainstream to legacy media. Because it's going from instead basically from suggesting that it's the main thing that everybody pays attention to archaic, old, fossilized, or fossilic, whatever you want to call it, right? All that stuff. Basically, in other words, it's being phased out, or people are phasing it out of their lives and their attention spans because they don't trust it anymore, and they know that it's, well, in my case, I would always say, as I always do, that very blatantly and clearly, let's be honest here, it's an echo chamber for government and big corporations. That's what it is. It's a mouthpiece, is all it is. It's like their way of going like this and then eating a fucking microphone. Like, that's what it's about, is they're trying to eat the fucking microphone. That's how loudly they want to exclaim their agendas to us and indoctrinate us. And so they're literally, like, actively trying to eat the fucking microphone. Yeah. Yes, I actually did literally basically bite my mic. Shut up. Anyway, listen, the point is, I commit all the way, alright? The point is like, that's what they're doing. And so there's a lot of people now that are trying to call it legacy instead. And so that's a big shift that you may be noticing right now. A lot of people is it's not so much the narrative that's shifting in terms of the common people, so much as it is the language we're utilizing, because we're also realizing, guess who's the one who dubbed themselves, yes, themselves, as mainstream media, and thus mainstream. The legacy media. Yeah, and they're all also monopolized, as in they all have, like, maybe one or two major corporations in the US that own them entirely. They're all pretty much syndicated and owned by and produced and directed by these exact fuckers. The same ones that own each other, even though they can try to consider themselves, counterparts because they're in the same industry, but at the same time competitors when they're not, because they're actually owned by, like, one or two major corporations that probably their own holding companies probably have ties in each other's. Because actually, if you think about it, that's mutually beneficial. They can hold each other up. I'm willing to bet you, if you look at their fucking holding companies and their stakeholders, they probably cross over. They're competing monopolies on our media. I guarantee they do that. In Canada, their two biggest mainstream outlets, the CBC and CTV. Well, actually, one is wholly owned. CBC, who is by far the biggest one, is wholly owned and always has been wholly owned and ran by the federal fucking government of Canada. So in other words, it's the Canadian taxpayers who are paying for the CBC to even exist in the first place. In last year, 2021, the fucking media outlet, CBC, got, I believe it was $2.8 billion. That's insane. You're paying $2.8 billion a year. Obviously, I'm sure it's steadily increasing too every year. For an outlet that's just a fucking echo chamber mouthpiece for the government. And for, of course, the corporations. Canadians, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why don't you research this shit? And moreover, why aren't you more mad about it? Or mad at all? Why aren't you angry about it? Why are you accepting of it? Like, anyone in the world should ever accept that. That should be something that should immediately piss you off and be like, oh no. Fuck no. You can go fuck yourself with rebar up your ass because it's not happening. You're not going to take our taxpaying money and put it into yourself. You're going to fuck yourself is what you're going to do. Like, that's the correct response, is everybody should, like, get pissed off about that, stand up together and be like, yeah, that's not acceptable. That's not okay. That is absolutely wrong on every level, because it's immoral, because it's unjust, and it's unjust because of the fact that it's a guarantee you will lie to suit yourself, and therefore you cannot be trusted. So why the fuck are you even there? And why are you using our money for that? That's wrong, Not that, of course, you can trust privately owned corporations, because you can't trust them either, obviously, because they're part of the fucking control scheme of the world, and part of that fucking web at the top, in this case, at its hub in the middle, where everything comes back to. And it's just like, if you are honest about it, you realize, okay, this makes us feel entrapped. Like, it's an impossible position, right? It's a catch-22. It's a paradox, whatever you want to call it, right? You can only do wrong, basically. In other words, no matter what, it's going to be wrong, it's going to be fucked up, it's going to be flawed, and you can't fucking win. So why do anything? There, that's exactly the trap. That's the trap that they have people in right now. In the grand scheme, the entire way that they're even able to continue this in the first place is because, A, they make sure they maintain and keep you extremely stressed and exhausted. 2, make sure you maintain us being heavily divided and continuing to divide and conquer ourselves and each other via disagreements and other stupid shit like that, and being offended or scared of each other because of these disagreements. Like, believing in a flat earth apparently is like the worst thing in the world, even though it literally changed and changes absolutely fucking nothing. So it has zero impact whatsoever in any way, shape, or form, except I guess on egos, as an example, or politics, where you stand on that. 3 is, of course, that exact fucking thing, right? They have it to where it's like a trap. They get you to think about it. Okay, what can we do? Is there really power in numbers? And if so, and in our voices, and if so, how far do we have to go? And what do we have to do to be able to force it against their wills, into our wills and favors, and against them and them out of power? And what do we do with them then? It's like, well, okay, well, we can't trust private investment in corporations because they're proven to be a part of the fucking problem, and they can't be trusted. But we can't do it with the government either. And we're supposedly anti-communist and socialist, which means that the people, we're anti-people, basically. We're anti-us trying to govern ourselves and everything. Truly, literal people without a government. A proper, few random people that are elected into position of government to govern over rules, laws, and authority, and there's over people, right? So, because that would be communism, so you can't have that. So now what do? Well, you now feel like, well, what's the point now? Because it seems like it has to be either one, or it has to be the other, of course, right? This is the fucking trap. Because now, you get even more exhausted. You feel even more hopeless. You feel everything else like that. That's the problem. Now they have you exactly where they want you. It's literally and truly is that fucking easy, that fucking simplistic as to how and why they do this. It's very straightforward. It doesn't matter how much you want to believe it's not true. It is. That's you look in the fucking mirror, man. It's obvious. Think about most people in your life. Do they really, when they go through the logistics of it, do they want to fight, or do they not? Do they just kind of sit apathetic, twisting their hands, writhing their hands around each other, or twiddling their fingers or their hair or whatever, just kind of looking down at their desk or their ground or whatever, and not actually do anything? In other words, apathetic. Are they apathetic? Because I guarantee you, around the world, especially in the Western world, most people are going to be apathetic that in your life. Sure, they're activists, but are they really? Do they actually go out and do shit? Do they keep trying to rally people together? Do they talk about it like this consistently? Or do they not? Do they rant about it or talk about it like this is all fucking bullshit, we know what they're doing, but they never actually do anything, they just kind of forget about it again and go on with their lives? It's going to be the latter for at least 80% of people in this world, especially in the United States and Canada. It's obvious that that's the way it is. And I guarantee that you, listening or viewing this, you know that's to be true in your personal life. Your colleagues, your friends, your family, your coworkers, your mom, your dad, your dog, your cat, whatever. Okay, obviously not the latter two, but you know what I mean. Like, you know, like, whoever it is, likely it is, it's the latter. That's what they do. That's apathy. It's forlorn, hopeless, like, well, what's the point? What can you do? You know, like, well, you shouldn't just accept the status quo and let this fucking shit happen. And that's, like, I think a big part of what, like, a lot of people, again, up in Ottawa were saying to people that were decrying them and saying that they're white supremacists or whatever, or just in general that they just hated it because, you know, noise or too many people or whatever. And it's like, you don't seem to understand, especially to the cops. This was specifically, and especially to the cops. They're like, that were there. They're like, you don't seem to understand something. Like, yes, to keep your job and get your paycheck, to have a roof over your head, it's understandable that you're going to do what you can to follow the rules and as you're commanded or told to do. Okay, we get that. There's a problem here. With that, that shows it's the biggest fucking flaw in that logic, though, in these kinds of times, is that what really that means is, okay, you can keep doing this. You can just ignore all the rest of this shit and keep getting your paycheck. Alright, fine. The problem is that the moment that you yourself decide to question something or not participate in this is the moment that you're probably going to lose your job anyway. You're going to lose your rights. You're going to have your bank account frozen. You're going to have all these other stupid things happen that literally happened in the 30s in fucking Nazi Germany. Go figure. It's just like, this is the shit that they do when they're trying to form a dictatorship. So if you keep being apathetic and you keep saying, well, I just want to make sure I still have job security so I can pay for my wife and kids to have a roof over their head or whatever the fuck it is. If this was a normal situation, that makes sense. This is not a normal situation because it's guaranteed that if you continue to do this for them, you too will have your rights stripped away eventually. Unless you're the most Mataton slave to them ever and refuse to ever think for yourself and continue to do everything that they ever tell you to do, then okay, maybe. But you're just really a minion. You're being used to advance their bullshit, their agenda, their fear-mongering, and they're even maybe killing of people. The truth is they're trying to install a dictatorship. That's very blatantly obvious. If you want to risk the chance that they're trying to do that, what the fuck is the point of just following what you're told to do as a cop in that situation? Because all you're really doing is yourself perpetuating that, and then you still don't really have rights. You may have a roof over your head, you may still have your paycheck. You may not be dead yet. But what's the point? Because your friend, your kids, your wife, your friends, your family still can't exit their house unless you're literally given permission from your government to do that, or whatever, or you have a passport for it, or whatever else, right? What you're doing is you're allowing them to install that. Is that really worth it to then follow orders? No. It should always be a no. Especially considering it also, of course, directly violated their oath. Anywhere in the world, it violates directly the oath that you take as a police officer or a peace officer, a public servant. It directly violates that. This is the fucking reality, you know? But it's a form of apathy. They're doing that because they're apathetic, because they're scared to actually voice their real feelings, opinions, thoughts on it. Because they know they'll probably lose their jobs. In other words, they acknowledge it's a problem. They acknowledge that it's basically autocratic already. And they acknowledge that they're under threat constantly too. Because if they ever were truly honest, if they ever admitted their true thoughts, or their true feelings, or their concerns, they would just about guaranteed get their asses kicked from the force. They'd lose their jobs, they'd lose their paycheck, they'd probably get blackballed, they'd have their bank accounts and assets, their bank accounts frozen, their assets taken away or frozen. And they probably would lose their fucking home too. And they know that. whether consciously or subconsciously, they know that. That's why they follow these orders implicitly, because they're scared. They're truly cowards. They're terrified. They're spineless. They don't know what the fuck to do with themselves, and they'd rather just keep the illusion of comfort, the illusion of convenience, the illusion of freedom, the illusion of, being cared for, than to take a stand and lose all of that. Potentially lose your wife and kids too because of it. Because now they may not have a roof over their head for very long, or at all. And that obviously can cause rows. But, in the end, is that a bad thing? Temporarily, yes. But in the long run, you're doing the right thing by doing that. By putting all that at risk and losing it all, potentially. You really are doing the right thing, because you're standing up for what you in your heart and mind know is right. What your oath was for. And whatever else. It shouldn't be difficult or hard to understand that. But I guess it's not even that. It's not so much that people can't understand it or see it. It's that they don't want to hear it, understand it, or see it, or think about it. Because it would be inconvenient to their comfort. It would destroy their comfort. It would push them outside their comfort zone. And ultimately, that's the biggest trap of all for this whole fucking web of lies that the world runs on. And it's that. It's the self-entrapment of comfort, convenience. That's what it is. Convenience is actually a detriment. It's not a positive. So is comfort. It's actually more of a detriment and does more harm in the long run than it does any good. It is very fucking true, this archaic saying and phrase, but it's absolutely the fact of reality, life, and existence itself, which is that in order to grow and learn, you have to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. You'll never learn and you'll never grow unless you go outside your comfort zone and go to where you're almost uncomfortable. You have to keep pushing yourself further and further. Every time you go outside your comfort zone, you do it a few times, eventually you get used to it. That's called learning. You've learned it, you've grown into it. Now it's comfortable now, right? Now that's inside your comfort zone, meaning your comfort zone has now expanded. And that's why you keep going outside of your comfort zone. Every single time you incorporate something else that was outside of it, that's now inside of it, you've expanded your comfort zone, you go out further. Because you're learning, you're growing, and you're expanding your opportunities and possibilities in life. That's how life fucking works. You have to fucking do that. If you don't do that, you'll never learn, you'll never grow, you'll never expand. You'll just keep living as you always have. That's the truth. And so it really is the biggest fucking trap is convenience and comfort. And that's, in the end, what all of this is about. People are apathetic by default because with these tough situations, and don't want to hear about it or think about it or talk about it because it's extremely uncomfortable. It pushes them so far outside of their comfort zone. It's extensively inconvenient, obviously, in an endless plethora of ways. And that's understandable. But the problem is, you have to be willing to go well outside your comfort zone sometimes. Sometimes so far outside your comfort zone that you get overwhelmed. Sometimes you have to do that to protect and save yourself and all your friends and family and anybody and everybody else around the world. You have to fucking do that. And it's these exact type of situations that have happened many a time throughout history that people have to learn from that history and understand that this is the exact most imperative, best, perfect time for everyone to unify 100%, stand in unity, firm for what's right for everybody, and say, enough of your fucking bullshit and your rigged systems. We're taking our fucking lives and rights back. We're not just calling you out. We're going to literally depose of you, probably in more ways than just simply taking you out of power. Because you can't be trusted, we know you're going to find your way back. Which means, yeah, likely it is, they're going to be killed. It's about the only option. Is it fucked up? Yeah, I would say it's fucked up. But in the end, that's the only way you can guarantee that those fuckers are never going to go right back to where they were already. Because it's a guarantee they will if they aren't dead. So you might as well take them out. But I'm digressing at this point. But the points have been made. So yes, I sincerely believe this is truly how the world works. And more people around the world are finding out very quickly. With everything that's going on, especially right now and in the last few months, things are never as they've seemed. Things are never as they're sold to us or told to us or shown to us as. It's very different.
And yet it's always been blatantly obvious. As obvious as something can be right in the front of our fucking faces. And at least people are waking up to reality. They're growing and they're learning and they're going outside their comfort zone and realizing, holy fucking shit, maybe the crazy conspiracy theorists are actually right. Like, there's way too many correlatives, there's way too many correlations, there's way too much evidence, there's way too much proof that all of this is all planned. It's all intentional, it's all a scheme, and it all serves their purpose, which is always against ours. And here we are. And in the end, yeah, all this shit connects directly to New World Order. It really, really does. It connects directly to New World Order. Shit. And it's funny because I've believed in that shit and known about it on my own before even going down any rabbit holes or researching it or hearing it the first ever time, New World Order. I've realized that in observing throughout my life, everything, my own conclusion had a name, and it was the NWO, the New World Order. Didn't even fucking know it. And then suddenly, like, I think early 2010s, I did some research and finally went down some rabbit holes and realized the Georgia Guidestones existed. And the Rockefellers' greatest wet dream, especially David Rockefeller's, was New World Order. It was actually his brainchild. And he's the one who paid for, conscripted, and erected the Georgia Guidestones down in Atlanta, or just 13 miles outside of Atlanta, to the southwest, I believe. And it's literally the rules for the New World Order. It's all the main major goals, the Guidestones, the guiding principles of New World Order. That's what it's all about. Because that's how big of a hard-on, how many orgasms probably a minute that damn man has beyond the grave about it. And it's just like, you look at that, and it's like, fuck, dude. And now you look at everything now, and more people are realizing maybe the New World Order is not a conspiracy theory. Maybe it's not as far-fetched or crazy it is. And then eventually people are like, I could see how that's probably actually real. And it starts with the WEF now and Klaus Schwab and Bill Gates and all these other rich fuckers. And the Rockefellers' philanthropic organization, by the way, as well, or philanthropic, sorry. And that's a entirely different topic I could go down one day, but it's the easiest fucking correlative to follow. It is as blatantly clear and obvious as possible that it goes back to that shit again. The WEF and Klaus Schwab are basically because Klaus Schwab's brainchild is the WEF, right? And their agendas, right, and their thoughts and what they want for the world, their utopia they want to make the world into, is actually identical to the New World Order utopia of David Rockefeller. The only real differences between the two are very obvious. And it's that they loved each other, and they both agreed with each other on these things too. They even worked with each other for a long time, before Rockefeller died, David. And it turns out, it's obvious and clear. The WEF was formed by Klaus as the stepping stones. It's the foundation and the framework. That's what the WEF and Klaus Schwab's whole brainchild is. That's what it's all about. It's to the setup and the prelude, the stepping stones to installing New World Order. They are literally one and the same. It's just that Klaus came up with the admittedly kind of perfect way to, again, create the structure and the framework and the foundations for the New World Order's installment. And so he's basically the one that's carrying on David Rockefeller's little brainchild that he has orgasms from beyond the grave over all the fucking time. And it's the most easy fucking thing to watch and break down and realize and look and like, yep, everything's fucking connected. It's all part of that web I was talking about. Every bit of this is. And yeah, so there you go. But anyway, if I really went all the way into that, I'd have to do it to a different video for a different day. So, this is the political commentary for February 2022. We're closing in pretty close on a year, by the way, straight of political commentaries. One of the monthly political commentaries, so that's cool. Feel free to follow me or subscribe to me or whatever it is on Rumble and or Odyssey, because again, at least with Odyssey, maybe eventually Rumble though, push comes to shove, I'll be uploading those subsequent compilations of the COVID/vaccine narrative. Because apparently it'll automatically get these videos pulled down and my channel suspended and or banned here on Google because our overlords at Alphabet Incorporated, aka Google, aka Palo Alto's own omniscient enclave, at YouTube, gets to define to us what is correct and incorrect, what is the best things to think and not think, and what is the only real things that are real and fake. And also, of course, what is morally correct and incorrect, and everything else in existence, quite literally, is predetermined by them, including only the correct and only incorrect information, the only information that you're allowed to share and see versus not share and see, because they know everything. So, thank you, Google, for ruling our lives. You're amazing at what you do, and anybody who wants to live clearly shouldn't dare contest your clear, omniscient, godlike authority on all things information and perspective. I'm kidding, go suck a dick and fuck yourselves. And I'm gonna fuck off now. Stay safe out there, stay great and fluffy and safe and everything. Oh, not, it's your prerogative. And I hope to see you later. Until next time, though. We the Fringe! But seriously, I actually have a shirt. Our washing machine's broken, though, so I haven't been able to wash it, so I haven't been able to wear it. Otherwise, I would have worn it in this video. But yeah, we the Fringe. Let's go. Alright. Okay. Bye-bye.